Go.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon all of you who are watching. Welcome to our Leaders of the Light program. We are very blessed to have two wonderful individuals with us today, and we are going to hear from them where they are coming from, and something about their life, and then inshallah we'll learn from them a few aspects of Islam, inshallah. So brother, I'll start with you. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Can you introduce yourself to the viewers?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Jason Hammr. I'm from here in Central Florida. My Muslim name is Sallahuddin. I've been Muslim now almost 20 years.
MashaAllah. Thank you, brother Jason. Yes, sister.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Taro. I'm from Sebastian, Florida, and I've been a Muslim for a little over a year now. Alhamdulillah.
So we have native Floridians.
Yes.
We have brother Jason and sister Hannah. So I welcome both of you to our program. I hope we'll have a good conversation and we'll learn from each other today, inshallah. Brother Jason, you said that you became Muslim 20 years ago?
Almost 20 years ago now.
Almost 20 years ago. So can you take us back to 20 years and what made you Muslim?
Oh man, that's a long time ago. I wish it was just a year ago. It's more fresh. Alhamdulillah, I was always interested in religion, philosophy, and Islam was one of the major world religions. I also came up in a time, so I'm gonna age myself and date myself. So growing up in the late 80s and early 90s, I was probably the first generation that grew up on hip hop culture. So I think that when you see, especially I'm a white American, when you see white converts, you tend to, I don't want to generalize, but you tend to see two streams probably. You've been in this business a long time. You tend to see ones that come maybe through the Sufi path, the path of Tasawwuf, and then you see us that come through hip hop or African American culture. So that time during, the 1990s, I would say this is the golden age of hip hop, you had many references to Islam in music, in culture, in celebrities. And again, when I thought about Islam, I would think about people like Malcolm X, of Muhammad Ali. That was probably in popular culture, that was my frame of reference of what a Muslim is. And so obviously growing up in Central Florida, we did have some African American Muslims, but we had also predominantly brown Muslims, Muslims from the subcontinent and Arab Muslims. So coming in contact with Pakistanis and Indians was a crucial component of that. I was teaching at the time, I was teaching public school. Actually the school I graduated from, Cypress Creek High School. And I was there teaching, and I had a lot of students of mine who were Muslim. And because I was a young teacher, we had a pretty good relationship. And they would bring me pamphlets on Islam. I said, oh, this is interesting. But I never really imagined Islam as a religion for me. Actually, when I studied Islam, I said, man, this is a great religion for black people. For African Americans, what a great religion this is a really good thing that they got, And so then it got me thinking. I said, let me reread the autobiography. I had read the autobiography of Malcolm, back in the 1990s. And again, when I was in university, I said, let me reread it. I said, man, there's a point he said, for white Americans who are sincere about solving the race problem, you have to at least consider Islam. I said, let me consider Islam then. And these are probably people that you probably know their families. This is Ahmed's restaurant. So one of the nephew, Jamil Ahmed, who now lives in Texas, was one of my students, and he would always talk to me about Islam after class. Wow. He was always one of those students. And then another student I'll never forget, he's still a close personal friend of mine to this day, is a student named Amr Lababidi. You probably know Lababidi very well. So this was two of my students who are always trying to convert me. Wow. They would bring me, of course, delicious food. So, that's I don't know if that answers your full question, but that is a good introduction, I think, for food and music.
When you said that you came into contact with your students even after the class, and they were teaching you about Islam.
Yeah.
So, as an individual, what really brought you to Islam? Because I know it's a big
move. It's a big move. Yeah.
I mean, in that, the whole group of teachings of Islam, what attracted you the most?
Well, I was always a person who believed in God.
Yeah.
Though maybe my lifestyle would say something different. Like if you look at how I was living my life at the time, somebody would be like, you believe in God? Like, you sure you believe in God? But I'd always believed in God. Alhamdulillah, I never became an atheist, even though I may have lived a little bit like an atheist. So I had some issues personally that I was struggling with.
Okay.
And I think Islam was a beautiful path to help like clean up some of those issues and bad habits. But I was really attracted to the concept of brotherhood. You know, I think growing up in a very racially divided America, if you're being honest about the history of this country racially, and then being part of a religion where, you know, people put their forehead on the floor to the same creator 5 times a day, has an appeal, that concept of an ummah, of a brotherhood, I always felt that was extremely beautiful.
Brotherhood was very...
Yeah, and sisterhood, brotherhood, like the idea that we're...
It means the same, I mean, kind of...
For sure.
Actually, this word brotherhood is derived from Quran, because in the 26th chapter, that all believers are brothers and sisters. Ikhwa means brothers and sisters.
I see.
So, so that's how it. In English, they just translate brotherhood, but we understand that it means everything, sisters as well.
Yes.
So, no, mashallah. So, yes, sister. So, what brought you to Islam? Jason spoke about his experience. What was your experience?
So I had known some Muslim people online through like a meme page, I guess, where they were like share funny stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got to know the owner, and then I like became friends with him and like all of his friends, and they were all Muslim, and they all like had, you know, a conviction that their religion was the truth. And I grew up, okay, backtrack. I grew up in a strong Lutheran family. They were always involved in their church. They ran the Sunday school. They were really close with the pastors, all that stuff. So I grew up going to church every Sunday, youth group on Wednesdays, all that. And as I got older, I started like questioning it, because my parents would always like force me to go, and they never told me like why we go to church. It was just something that, oh, you need to do this because we're the leaders of the church and you need to be there. And I guess I had a kind of a hold on it when I was younger, but as I like, you know, got more like cognizant of like what it was, I was just kind of like, is this really it? And then I got a job when I was in high school, which meant that I got to get out of church on Sundays. So I just stopped going to church. And then I met those people, and then I was like really questioning, like, because I always knew I believed in God, but there was a point where I was just like, it's just not Christianity, but I don't know what I am. And yeah, basically, I got to know them, and then I got interested in Islam, and I thought about it for a while, and then eventually I converted. But yeah, one thing that I liked the most about Islam was the modesty. Like that attracted me the most. Obviously, like after like one God, and there's no like partners to God, obviously, but the modesty like really like came to me. Yeah. Because I'm like generally I'm a shy person, so I mean it just I'm like in American culture you're like seen like you need to be like outspoken and all this stuff, you know.
I was just gonna say that like I teach, you know, high school students, and I see like that pressure on like the quiet kids to, you know, oh, let your personality come out, but that may be their personality.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of pressure, obviously, probably definitely more pressure for girls than for guys on how you look and to show off how you look.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that when I came to this country some 30 years ago, I felt at odds with lack of modesty, and I used to think that God had made everybody modest, whether you are Westerner or Easterner. If you don't have modesty, then you know there's something big missing in you. And as you said, that modesty is part of Islam. Without that, there is no Islam. In fact, Prophet Muhammad have said, that faith and modesty come together and they live together.
Oh.
So if a person is immodest, this means that this person has little or no faith.
They lost some of it.
So
Yeah.
they lost it. Sister, a question. When you were going to Lutheran Church since your childhood till at this age when you became Muslim, what was it that was missing there?
It just didn't feel complete to me, and it just didn't make sense how, because when I would learn about it, it'd be like, oh, like it's monotheism, but like there's the whole Trinity, like three can't be one.
Right.
Like how like as much as you try to understand it, like it just doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it just, that didn't add up with me. And also like, well, now that I'm a Muslim, I like think back on it and I'm like, yeah, a lot of that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it just didn't feel complete to me. Yeah.
The Trinity is always one of the most confusing thing for
sure.
every human being. That how
For
how three can be one and one can be three.
For sure.
But just in talking about you, since you have been Muslim for 20 years, mashallah, you are blessed with
Alhamdulillah.
children, and mashallah,
Yes.
you have a very good, stable family life. Can you tell us how was it to be a Muslim for 20 years?
Yeah, it's probably an easier question to answer how I became a Muslim. How to stay a Muslim was, there's been some challenges, right? Yeah, alhamdulillah, I've been blessed. Allah puts good people in your life, you know, so I've been blessed to have some really good people in my life who were like guides at different phases. So when I first became Muslim here in Central Florida, like I said, I was living kind of a lifestyle that was not conducive to living as a Muslim. Even though I was a like public school teacher. I was also young. I was probably like, 23, 24 years old, maybe when I converted. And I didn't, like, for example, like the 5 daily prayers, which is something that I would never ever want to leave now, would be like the biggest nightmare of mine. Sometimes I have a nightmare that it's time to pray. And there's a lot of times going out and I can't find a place to pray. I have this nightmare. It happens every like few months. But at the time I wasn't praying 5 times a day. At the time, in fact, when I first learned about that, I said, oh, that's something that Muslims in the past did. That like nowadays, no one really prays 5 times a day. So when I moved to Bermuda actually within a year and a half, 2 years of becoming Muslim. And I made the intention, I said, you know what? When I go there, I'm